Welcome to the third best of 5. Spawning on Overgrowth to the bottom left hand corner in purple, playing Protoss for Team Psystorm. It's Poizon. And to the top right hand corner in blue, playing Zerg for my Risk. It's Schnubiiii. So we've already seen Overgrowth before in the match between Mitsukotze and Alaris, but that was a ZvZ and not a PvZ. So Poizon walling off at the top of the ramp, probably going into a double gateway build, I suspect. She's been doing this a lot lately. Sends out the probe in order to get some early information. Could actually just also, if she just realizes that the drone is moving out, could have actually just prevented that hatch from going down. Does not do so. So hatchery goes down. And then we have the extractor right behind it. And the pool is going to follow up next. I know some people might be tired of hearing it, but it's the bread and butter build of Zerg. Okay, there's the second gateway, as I was expecting to happen. So we will see a cybernetics core very soon afterwards, so that Poizon will have the possibility to go into double attack production and then maybe deal some damage with some adept shadens. Might just even commit a little bit more by producing one adept early on. If she'd seen some more early aggression out of Schnubiiii, she would have wanted to get a Zealot out. Actually, she does it anyways, which is quite interesting here. I don't really know if you necessarily need that one Zealot here. I think you could also just wait for the Cybernetics core to finish and then just get out an Adept and a Mothership core. Sometimes people even, I think, cancel that Zealot over here. I mean, we see that the spawning core is just being done now. Speed is getting researched. Slow links take quite some time to get across the map, and there's not even a base down here in order to defend. So yeah, I mean, this is the safety Zealot. It's safe to have it, and you also, of course, can just keep it at home once these adepts finally move out and shade out in order to deal some damage, so you still have something right there. So in the meantime, Poizon just planted down the pylon over here and the gateway right over it. So the thing is that actually, if you don't really send out units over here, this pylon and structure actually just barely do not get seen. So seems as if Poizon just really wants to ramp up the aggression a little bit later on, but with this hatch being thrown down, the hatch itself of course doesn't see it, but the drone that came in order to plan the hatchery saw it quite easily. Don't really know why Schnubiiii is just retreating here. Now she just gets back and tries to take out this pylon as soon as possible. The adepts are here and will now just easily take out these Zerglings before they can get the pylon. No. Okay, so the pylon just gets really done. Ooh, and Poizon actually just cancels the gateway right away. Does not want to send in another probe in order to get another pylon down. Realizes that she will probably not get it up because Schnubiiii now is really well prepared for all that Poizon could actually do. Poizon just desperately trying to get into the mineral line of her opponent, trying to deal some damage toward the drones, but she gets surrounded completely. And Schnubiiii actually defends this without taking too many losses, having dealt quite some significant damage herself by just discovering what her opponent was trying to do and taking it out before it could get up. And Poizon, of course, invested a lot of resources and time into this nice little push that actually, unfortunately, didn't really deal her or do her any good. So now her Mickey Mouse nexus here almost is, getting or coming in just way later than usual. So while Schnubiiii is already on 3 bases, her opponent is not even on 2. So this is actually looking quite nice for Schnubiiii already, who now just throws down a Roach Warren and gets some safety spore crawlers in position. Doesn't really know what's behind this. I mean, does she actually know how late this base is? I think she does. So she might expect some sort of maybe Oracle play after it, or since Poizon is well known as the DT queen, maybe even some DTs behind it. So yeah, having a Spore Crawler in position is of course always a nice thing to have. So Blink, is it going to be? So Schnubiiii just sending forth a few links over here. Actually, yeah, I mean, just with like pure mass links, I think she could have easily just broken through these defenses without much effort here. So just producing links out of 3 bases like crazy, maybe some Bane links in order to get through some defenses, but there's not even a wall here. So this would be so easy for Schnubiiii to just run in and kill off almost anything. I mean, yeah, the Mothership Core has full energy, so there would be photon overcharges available, like no problem. Okay, good force field usage here, so the links don't really get the surface area, also throwing down a photon pylon overcharge here. So Schnubiiii just loses a few links for almost nothing, while Poizon can just now warp in once more. But like I said, I mean, this is just the first few links, like having an overwhelming number of like 30 or 40 at that point in time could have just dealt tremendous and maybe even game-ending damage at that point. Poizon just trying to get less surface area for the links by walling off some parts of her main of her natural base here. Schnubiiii just trying to get in. Unfortunately, microing not that good, so she just tried to focus fire down, maybe by misclick one of these stalkers running around a lot of units while not hurting anything. And now it seems Poizon has just managed to stabilize here and just walling everything off, checks the 3rd base if there are some links around here that could just keep her probes from expanding, sees that there's nothing there and will probably now try to expand over at that location here, while Schnubiiii should just now try to get up the eco of her own. So as we can see, she's already behind in drones, just tried to get a big force out and deal some damage over here, which she unfortunately couldn't do. So now she's actually quite behind already, getting the Hydralisk den up and trying to get a Hydra attack. Maybe we could actually see some early lurkers here. That could actually be quite interesting there if she just managed to get enough. But again, just producing a lot of Zerglings here instead of using all of the lava in order to saturate her 3rd base. I think that would actually just do her better a lot. Poizon flying out with a Warp Prism over here would probably try to sneak it in over at the right hand side, probably warping in some Dark Templars and even getting the Shadow Stride, an upgrade that I actually haven't personally seen being used yet. So I'm really curious whether we're going to see it now or not. So Schnubiiii just moving in with a few more units over here. She doesn't have any upgrades on her units, while Protoss already has. Gets kind of a good surround on the units, but again, Poizon just moving out, securing most of her valuable units with good force field usage, so the only thing that Schnubiiii can actually do is just throw away links and then move out once more. Okay, DT's getting warped in and getting put into the Warp Prism, so like I said before, Poizon probably trying to sneak some Dark Templars in here. There is an Overlord in position that will spot the Warp Prism. The question is if Schnubiiii is actually watching at that point in time, because she's pretty busy trying to attack the 3rd base over here and taking it out before Poizon can actually establish it, but it seems she's not really that successful. So she's not really reacting to the Warp Prism yet, so it seems as if her Overlord saw it, but like I said before, Schnubiiii herself unfortunately was not paying attention to the minimap. So Dark Templars getting unloaded, so let's see what they can actually do and if Poizon is going to use the Shadow Stride at all or not. Okay, just wants to take out that Spore Crawler usually as quickly as possible, or just trying to focus fire down Queens and Workers over here. Schnubiiii is already producing Roaches and Hydras over here, and there's an Overseer in position as well. So 7 Workers have been killed, and 3 DTs have been lost, I think. So, one could actually argue if this was really worth the trade. Dealing some drone damage is usually always a good thing, but Dark Templars are also pretty expensive. So, losing 3 Dark Templars for 7 drones, I am not quite certain if I would really like to take that trade. It's better than nothing for the investment, but still probably not the damage that Poizon had expected these 4 DTs to do. So, but the important part, of course, is that she managed to get herself enough time in order to finally saturate her 3rd base. Schnubiiii just doing the right thing, getting a 4th base of her own, following the good old Zergling, or the good old Zerg rule of thumb, that you always want to stay 1 base ahead of your opponent. if you want to play the game for a little bit longer. If you of course prepare for an all-in, it doesn't really matter if you want to get another base up or not. You then rather want to invest everything into army and kill your opponent straight away, but that of course would be an all-in. So Poizon, realizing, or maybe not realizing, but probably guessing that her opponent is already taking the fourth, just decides to go for the gold base herself. Which could actually just get her a really big income here. So, Schnubiiii just moving out with mostly roaches and hydralisks over here. No upgrades yet whatsoever, while Poizon is already at 2-0, already getting into 3-0. We have 1-1 incoming for Schnubiiii, but only in a few seconds of time. In the meantime, Poizon just moves in with a Warp Prism and some DTs once more, killing off that Spore Crawl over here that actually not managed to get the Warp Prism. So now the Dark Templars are here trying to tear down that Spore Crawler, but then it realizes, okay, it doesn't really matter. Wow, there was the Shadow Strike, nicely done. Just blinking out and then towards the Warp Prism getting picked up. So that was actually nice use of the Shadow Strike over there, and the first time I actually saw it being used. Yeah, nice thing, or nice to save them here. And of course the pesky Warp Prism is still around, nothing there to really get it out of the sky, so there's always the threat of the Warp Prism coming back into your base while you move out, so you usually just want to leave some units behind, which is of course something you also don't want to do if you're really planning on to attack your opponent. So I really would love some Lurkers in the mix. I think Lurkers would just, wow, destroy this army over here. This time Schnubiiii just tries to get in with only roaches and hydralisks. I mean, they're still pretty good units, especially the hydralisks with the upgrades just deal tremendous amounts of damage once the army just gets into closer range. But like I said, I mean, like 5 to 6 Lurkers in this mix, plus some Hydras as well. I mean, there's not even detection here, but even if there were, you could just try to focus the observers down using these 7 range Hydralisks, because you have one observer in the fray, so you could just spot the observer easily. Okay, there's also some cannons around here, so they would at least provide some detection as well, but still, I mean, even when having detection, it's just a lot of damage that 6 Lurkers can dish out. So yeah, that would be just an awful... that would just make this unit composition so much better. I mean, Poizon and Schnubiiii, until this very engagement, were pretty close in terms of economy and in terms of army supply. So I think that Schnubiiii could have just really dished out a lot of damage. But now, ooh, Poizon actually just getting herself into a bad concave there. I mean, she has the big damage dealers here, the Immortals, but now the shields are down, and the rest of the units just seem to destroy Poizon's army over here. Poizon just warping in a whole lot of zealots to just rescue the rest of her army, but the heavy hitters have been reduced by quite a significant margin. Now even a Colossus coming in from the left-hand angle, but it's very exposed, getting taken down immediately. Schnubiiii just rallying in more units, trying to deal more damage toward Poizon, but Poizon finally morphing in her trademark unit, and that will now force Schnubiiii to just retreat, even again blinking forward in order to chase these units a little bit better, dealing some extra damage over here. Of course, Poizon has to be careful not to overextend. She just runs in hoping that her opponent will not have any detection at home, which unfortunately Schnubiiii doesn't, but now she finally has an Overseer in the mix, so the DTs have to get back to her now. But in the meantime, we also have the multi-pronged harassment, DTs just getting inside the main base, killing off all of the important tech. There was a Hydra then once, and there was a Roach one once, so the backbone of Schnubiii's army has just been destroyed. She won't be able to even make her composition for now. She has a 4th base up here, but she never bothered to actually saturate it. So if you just have a look at the income tab, we see that Protoss now with the 4th base up and saturated as well, just has the way better income. Plus, of course, that was a really big blow. The tech all destroyed. And like I said, I mean, this is just the problem, the most problematic thing, that Schnubiiii is now just stuck with mostly Zerglings while trying to remake the Hydroden and the Roach one. I think it would have actually been the wisest decision to just not make any units at all while getting the tech back up, just saving money and saving saving the resources and saving the lava so that you could just produce the units you actually wanted to produce once it comes back, but she was probably afraid of a counter push that could have just killed her right then and there. So again, Lynx being out, just preparing in order to take down whatever comes down. Fortunately for her, it's not DTs, because DTs would have not been visible here, but yeah, unloading some adepts, not really doing what she wanted to do. Dark Templar in position in order to scout for base, more units getting together in the death ball here, so we have a lot of Colossus out already, and I feel that, yeah, the longer the game goes, this army of Schnubiiii just gets less and less effective, especially with a Hydralisk in the mix that will just melt to most of the Colossi here. And of course we have Poizon on a maxed out army, 133 army supply to 114, and that is something that you actually never want to face as Zerg. Okay, more adepts getting rolled in. Okay, they will probably end up shading out, getting into the mineral line of the natural base, but there's a spine crawler here that at least keeps the units busy, so without really being microed, they won't deal that much damage. But at the same time, Poizon walking in, knows that her opponent is busy over at the right hand side, moves into the fourth base. Yeah, and once she just gets a good position in the narrow choke point of that ramp, all she just needs to do is micro her Colossi effectively. Okay, one Colossus being exposed will probably get taken down, but in the meantime the lasers of the other 5 just demolish everything that Schnubiiii has, taking out the whole army. This is GG, and Poizon takes the first map. Habitation Station is our second map. Spawning to the top left hand corner in purple, it's Poizon as our Protoss, leading 1-0. And her opponent, spawning to the top right hand corner in blue, playing for Mariska as Zerk, and having a newspaper reading overlord as decal. It's Schnubiiii. Sending out her overlord, and Poizon planning to wall off on top of her ramp once more, probably again just going for the double gateway opening. Didn't really do her much good in the first game, but you never know how well prepared your opponent is going to be in the second game. And that's also something you can argue with. Whenever people say, oh, your build just didn't work the first time, why would you do it again? Because people might actually just change their own opening. So you can always expect your opponent to maybe change the opening, so then your own opening might work a little bit better. Or you can just always say, well, of course, it didn't work in the first game, but I was executing it not that well, or as well as I actually could. So this time around I just tried once more, because it's a build I've practiced a lot and I'm actually kind of good doing it. But yeah, I just was messing it up a little bit during the last game, so I'll just do it again, but better this time. And then it's probably going to deal more damage and do more work. So let's see if this actually comes true or not. But for now, we have a faster Nexus out, so just a gateway expand this time around. Which means that Poizon will either just not build a second gateway right away, but just go into Cybernetics Core afterwards. Schnubiiii just gets the information that there's only one gateway around. We'll now also check for the base over here, because that's the really important information. Poizon also in the meantime checking for potential third bases as well, wants to see whether her opponent is expanding fast or not. Yeah, this is actually the most important information here for Schnubiiii. Yeah, like I said, this time around, not building a second gateway, but instead rather waiting for the Cybernetics Core. So it's not going to be the same opening, and everything I said before was just theoretically at best, but still an interesting point of view to think about. So, spawning pool researching the link speed, or as it's called, the metabolic boost. While Poizon is not able to invest into any tech right now, has to wait until the Cybernetics Core finishes. There it goes down. Warp Gate will be researched in just a few seconds, and we have a Stargate follow-up, which is actually a good idea, considering that the air distances between the bases are actually not that big. I mean, it's not really that small, but you have a rather short route from one mineral line to the other. Actually, some Protoss even try to smuggle in the Stargate over here, but of course that's more of a risk that your opponent could actually more easily scout it with the help of one Overlord that's getting sent across the map via the air route early on. So she preferred to get it back here. Probably gonna see an Oracle, maybe some Phoenix play. So we'll see, but I'd rather go with the Oracle for now. So let's see what's coming out of this. For now we just have Adepts in the making. But there's the Phoenix. Okay, so it's going to be Phoenix play for Poizon. Has to wait actually a little bit before she moves out with the Phoenixes. At least 4 is the number you usually want to have, because with 4 you can just fly in, pick up drones and shoot them down in one pickup. So that's what you usually just want to do. In the meantime, we have some more Lynx just running around, checking for hidden ninja bases here. Nice move there by Schnubiiii, I have to say. And in the meantime, even chasing down this Adept, but the Adept's unfortunately a little bit too strong, so they just managed to escape and kill off the chasing units in the process. So again, just moving in the Mothership Core. Oh no, actually just getting back towards her own base, so never mind. And yeah, more Phoenixes being produced. Like we said, Poizon just has to wait a little bit until she's gathered at least 4 of them together. It seems as if Schnubiiii is expecting something happening in her main base, probably a drop or something, so she just wants to have Zerglings in place, just in case that something might be headed away. Wartworn finishes, she has the 3rd base up as well, is now just trying to saturate her bases. If we have a look at the work count, she's still 10 workers behind, which is just an awful lot. So many resources that she just blew into early units that unfortunately really didn't do her any good. So Roaches in production, wants to have some defensive units here, and you know, Stargate just pumping out a few more Phoenixes, and in just a few seconds time she will have enough. But yeah, it seems as if Schnubiiii has just actually seen everything over here. We just have to make sure. Yeah, has just seen everything. So Poizon realized, okay, I don't really have to hide my Phoenixes anymore. Can just move them out, get some free Overlords down with it before Schnubiiii can actually just realize what's going on, and gets all of her Overlords back into safety positions where spawn crawlers and queens are around, so that I won't be able to pick them off as easily anymore. And Schnubiiii now in a hard supply block due to losing these 2 Overlords over here. So finally Poizon has 4 of these Phoenixes ready. So let's see, she just flies in and really wants to pick up some drones, but there are a lot of spore crawlers around, so she shouldn't really be able to deal that much damage. Maybe just pick off a drone here or there, or maybe a Zergling here and there. Yeah, Queen just unfortunately moving too far away from the main hatchery and the spore crawler. Yeah, Lynx can't really do much, so the Queen dies. At least that's one little success, and like we said before, the Phoenixes already managed to take out 2 Overlords. So in the resources lost department, it looks a lot better for Poizon so far, even getting the fleet beacon out. So it seems as if she rather just wants to transition into Sky Toss pretty early on, maybe getting some carriers, probably not Tempests, I feel. Although I haven't really seen the new Tempest ability yet, and if it's good enough, Poizon might even want to try to do it. Hydralisk then in production, so Schnubiiii just wants to get her Roach Hydra composition up once more. In the meantime, Poizon just managed to get her 3rd base uncontestedly, which is of course always a big problem there, and Schnubiiii doesn't even know about it. So in the meantime, Phoenix is just trying to be active. Nice move there by Poizon here, because that's always the important part. If you actually invest into Phoenixes, you have to make good use of them. Otherwise it's just a big waste. But as we can see, using Phoenixes just takes a lot of multitasking, and if you're not really used to it, if you're just in the process of practicing Phoenix play, and at some point you have to start with practicing it, and if you practice it, you of course also want to use it throughout competitive games, and competitive games are also a good way of trying to practice it. But as long as you're in the phase of practicing, you will just float so many resources, it's just ridiculous. So we see the double carrier production, not yet, but incoming. 1 carrier already in production, 2nd Stargate already on the way. Fleet beacon should be researching the interceptor upgrade at some point. And yeah, seems as if Poizon just wants to go strongly into Skytoss here, so we're probably just turtling on 3 bases, producing the Golden Armada, and once she's maxed, just cross the map and kill off her opponent, who's probably kinda unsuspecting of what's going on, because if Schnubiiii actually knew what Poizon was up to, she also would know that she needs to do some significant damage right now in order to keep her opponent from gathering too many carriers, to keep her from gathering carriers up to the critical amount where she just will not be able to stop them with the army composition she's producing. And of course she would just also want to get into Aspire, but she hasn't even planted one down. So unfortunately Schnubiiii being totally oblivious of what's going on in Poizon's base. Could have maybe guessed something along those lines by seeing the heavy Phoenix play, but of course that doesn't really mean that much, because early Phoenixes are still kinda standard play in PvZ. So seeing early Phoenixes does not necessarily mean that your opponent wants to eventually transition into Skytoss. Of course it's a possibility, and something you have to check for later on, but unfortunately Schnubiiii didn't. And as you see, I mean, this army is quite small at the moment. So if Schnubiiii actually, like I said, had realized what is going on a little bit earlier, she might just gather a lot of forces together, mostly Hydras, a few Roaches to buffer the damage, and then just cross the map and kill that off very easily, because one carrier and the little gateway crap that's standing around here is not really up to the task of killing off a good force of Roach Hydra in masses. So that just wouldn't work out at all. Mothership Core even in production, or Mothership even in production, the Mothership Core just morphing into a Mothership completely, while Schnubiiii just has to get rid of a few annoying units inside her main base, mostly the Phoenixes, that it seems were, well, not completely shut down, but at least driven away. 4th base incoming for Schnubiiii, a little bit late, because her opponent already has a 4th base up, and it's a gold base, while her own base is just a normal good old blue mineral base. So she won't even get a better income from this. In the meantime, we just see that the income for Poizon is actually way better, 68 to 53 workers over here. Yeah, and of course the tech is also a lot better, so it won't really take that much longer for Poizon to just get the army that is almost impenetrable by the army forces that Schnubiiii has. I mean, most of these units are Roaches, they can't even attack air. And then we have like 16 Hydralisks here, but 16 Hydralisks just can't take down the Mothership quick enough in order to get vision of all of these units and then taking out the carriers. In the meantime, the ground forces will probably be demolished quite well by the Roaches, so Schnubiii's Roaches should just easily tear through whatever is there on the ground for Poizon at the moment. But yeah, I think the air forces will just destroy the Hydras in the meantime, and then there will be only Roaches left in a direct engagement, and yeah, Schnubiiii just has to retreat from that on out, probably going for a full retreat. And even if she doesn't, her opponent is already on 4 bases, keeps producing more and more air units, and at some point in time, these carriers just will hit the critical mass, so where Schnubiiii just can send in whatever she wants, it just gets immediately destroyed by the interceptor fire. So Poizon just moves in. I don't know if she actually knew that a base was there or just found it by accident, guessing that the 4th base should be over here. If it isn't at the 3rd base location, I mean, where else would it, or at the 4th base gold location, where else would it be? So she just moves in, kills off the workers that were working over here, gets the hatchery as well. So now Schnubiiii moves in from the left-hand side, trying to get the big shot. And she actually took out the Mothership, like I said before, on the ground. The ground forces were actually quite easily destroyed by the Roaches, but like I said before, the carriers just easily killed the rest of the anti-air army. All of the carriers have survived, with more incoming and the Warp Prison helping to reinforce on the ground. But like I said, the ground forces actually right now are also the problem, because the rest of Schnubiii's ground forces got killed as well. Also seems as if she just has the worst upgrades. Yeah, it's 0-0 to 2-0. So GG, and Poizon takes the 2nd map as well. Echo is the third map of this best of 5, spawning to the bottom right hand corner in purple, playing Protoss for Team Storm. It's Poizon. And to the top left hand corner playing blue, Zerg. For my risk, it's Schnubiiii. GLHF and hearts for Schnubiiii. GLHF back to Poizon, who again prepares to wall off at the main ramp entrance, going for an early scout. Wants to see whether her opponent is up to any early pool shenanigans or not, and will find her probably not doing so, because we haven't seen Schnubiiii, I think, really cheesing in any series so far. Or has she? She might have. I might have forgotten about it. But most of the time Schnubiiii just goes for the hatch first. And yeah, Poizon will just realize this in a few seconds. Has she actually seen the base go down? No. She has not seen the base go down, but it doesn't really matter now. Sees the gas, sees no pool, knows that a hatch must be out, so she just plants down Nexus of her own without even walling off. But now starting the gateway right behind it. So Nexus first build for Poizon here. Quite a greedy and economic opening, but she will probably get through with it, since her opponent has also started with the hatchery first build, and the pool will take quite some time in order to get down. Like we see here, it's about 30 more seconds before the pool is done, and then producing a lot of links will take a lot of lava, will take a lot of resources, will also take about 25 seconds once more, and then the links have to cross the map. So we can say that for more than a minute this Nexus is quite safe. So the only thing we need to have really is a gateway in production. But then again, like I said, this is something yeah, where you just are a little bit indecisive. So walling off on top of the ramp now actually just comes back to haunt her, because it would have been easier to just wall off straight away if you actually was planning to go for, a Nexus first right from the get-go. Then you would usually prefer to have a pylon down here. But of course, if your opponent goes for some sort of proxy hack shenanigans, or maybe even a pool first, or just an early 14 pool, this could just come back to haunt you as well. And if you don't want to take that risk, you usually try to wall off on top of the ramp. But now, of course, the only thing she has in order to defend her Nexus over here is just one Zealot. And if Schnubiiii actually committed to a lot of links onto bases, she might be able to get it down before the Mothership Core gets out, or even if the Mothership Core got out, it only would have one photon overcharge available, and sometimes the links would even run in before the Mothership Core was out. I mean, this time around it's even getting produced at the natural base, so it will be here immediately and will not have to fly over from that location in order to plant the photon overcharge. But yeah, it's only one photon overcharge, so yeah, links can just run out, wait for 15 seconds, and then just move in. No more photon overcharge available, killing off that pylon, killing off that one little adapt here, and then just crispy crunching on all of these probes and the Nexus eventually. But Schnubiiii just goes into a third base after realizing what her opponent was doing with the help of that Overlord over here. So yeah, just trying to play the economical macro game once more, probably again with her Roach Hydra composition. And like I said, I think Schnubiiii could actually just make her attacks and her army worth more if she bothered to go into lurkers a little bit earlier here. So just having 5 to 6 lurkers in the mix, and I think she could just have easily taken out a few of Poizon's armies throughout the last 2 maps, where she with only Roach Hydra was not able to do that. So metabolic boost incoming, as well as the Pumatoist, whatever it is, Pumatoist, the upgrade for speed for the Overlords, which is something a lot of Zerg players actually do at the moment, because they just want to have quick Overlords to get better vision of what the opponent is doing first. And of course, if your opponent is actually really going into into Phoenix play, you really want to be able to drive away. So nice little move there by Poizon, just going into a mass Oracle build, and it seems that Schnubiiii will just barely realize what's going on. So if she just has a good look at the Stargates, she should actually be able to see what units are being produced, because that's just the unfair thing about the Stargate, that in a Stargate you can actually just see what's being produced, if it is a void ray or not, because you can just see the shape of the unit being produced. So if Schnubiiii was actually carefully looking, she should know that this is a mass Oracle play that Poizon is trying to pull off here. So yeah, Overlord, like I said before, just trying to fly around. Okay, but unfortunately not into a position that's safe, so the Stalker gets its kill. And where are the other oracles right now? I mean, we have 2 oracles out here. There's a 3rd one incoming, 2 more in production. So it seems as if Poizon just wants to wait for 5 to 6 oracles to then just fly in and kill off everything. I mean, 6 oracles can even kill a spore crawler quite quickly. At least quickly enough before it's able to take out one of the oracles. And then, of course, the other drones standing around are just toast in a matter of seconds. So while preparing the attack, Poizon also takes a 3rd base right behind it. Schnubiiii just droning up like crazy. I mean, the only thing she really has to worry about are the mass oracles over here. Where are the other 2? There were 2 more in production. Oh, here they come. So, seems as if this is going to be it for now, yeah, and I mean, by seeing these 2 Stargates, I think that afterwards, being on 3 bases, or getting up to 3 bases, I think Poizon again just wants to commit heavily into the air attack and going into Sky Toss afterwards. I mean, that would just make the most sense, so that she hadn't just thrown in these Stargates for nothing or only for this one push. So let's see how much damage the Oracles can actually do. Unfortunately, not all of them moving in, so there seems to be a little problem with the hotkey usage here. But yeah, okay, now they just go in, killing off the Queen with the first hit, now moving in, trying to kill off the Spore Crawlers, but not all of the Oracles are really firing at one Spore Crawler at once. Now at least getting this one done, but another one dies. Okay, 2 Oracles, 3 Oracles actually survive, and there's still, I think, one somewhere behind here. Yeah, there it is, still not being used. So like I said, a little bit of a hotkey mistake here, unfortunately, for Poizon. Could have otherwise just maybe even dealt more damage, but of course she's still okay, having killed 6 workers off, having killed at least the static defenses over here. Yeah, Hydra is not really good against Oracles, not in small numbers, because the Oracles just deal extra damage against light units, which Hydras are. So unless you really have enough of the Hydras, then of course they can just easily take them out, because they have higher DPS than the Oracle. But as long as there's just enough Oracles hovering above the Hydralisks, yeah, Poizon might have been even able to deal more damage here, but now she just hasn't, and Schnubiiii just put down more and more Spore Crawlers, so she will be safe for now and will be able to resaturate her main base. There's not much to collect from there anyways, and I think the more important part would be figuring out that her opponent is already on 3 bases, and that she really needs to take a 4th of her own as soon as possible, or again just trying to deal a lot of damage. I mean, after seeing that many Oracles, I think Schnubiiii should just sniff out that her opponent is probably going for some sort of mass air build, because that's what you would just usually suspect. I mean, you see that many Oracles, you should realize there's no way in hell she was able to produce this one. She was able to produce 6 Oracles out of 1 Stargate that fast. So that means she must have 2 Stargates around. That must mean, well, not necessarily must mean, but it's very likely, very probable that she wants to transition into mass airplay. So I should react accordingly, and maybe I can hit a timing somewhere where I can just tear her down before she can actually get her Golden Armada up, because that's usually the best plan, since in a really big air against air war, Zerg usually never really looks that good, unless of course you have a lot of Vipers out, you have maybe a lot of creep spread and some additional Spore Crawlers in the ground. You can just maybe abduct a lot of the important units into the spores, but yeah, it's a very long and drawn out game where you have to have a lot of patience and good positioning in order to whittle down the mass air fleet of the Protoss. And with interceptors now only costing 5 minerals, taking out the interceptors is also actually not really an option anymore. which was something you really wanted to do sometimes around when the opponent just had a lot of carriers and a lot of interceptors, but you had like a lot of Hydras and a lot of high DPSing units that could shoot air. You would just try to kite back and just kill off all the interceptors, and thus just draining the minerals off of your opponent until they were actually not able to produce any more interceptors, or like I said, the interceptors were just all gone. Nice little stasis ward over here while trying to take out that base. So if Schnubiii really wants to walk in, she will probably just get captured by the stasis ward, but only most of the Zerglings. So at least actually Schnubiii could just try to get in, but she sees how many units there are and that she would just walk right into the concave. And it seems as if Poizon just realizes that she might actually be able to take out that unit force here. I mean, it's mostly Hydras, and they unfortunately are so they're just so glass cannon-y that they just get taken out by the speedlots immediately. The rest of the units just move in. The oracles join the fray as well. The first carrier finally arrives. Schnubiii realizes this is it. GG's out, and Poizon takes the series 3-0.